Good evening, sir. Amrit here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, Dr. Vijayendra Singh.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, all of you. Am I audible? Anyone from the students?
Yes. You are audible.
So a very warm welcome to all the distinguished guests, colleagues, and dear students to the IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast, Breaking Barriers in Science. This event has been organized by the Department of Chemistry, Rani Rashmoni Green University, West Bengal, India, and Association of Chemistry Teachers. Mailing address Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, TIFR, Mumbai, in association with IQAC Government General Degree College, Shingur, West Bengal, India, in collaboration with International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, IUPAC. We shall get to learn many a thing from renowned scientists who comprise our speakers panel today. Such a program will definitely enrich students of undergraduate and postgraduate courses, research scholars, and even the faculty members across the country. Today we have with us Professor Ashutosh Ghosh Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Rani Rashmoni Green University, Professor Shantanu Chakraborty Sir, Principal, Government General Degree College, Shingur, Professor D.V. Prabhu Sir, General Secretary, ACT, Professor Brijesh Pare Sir, President, ACT, Professor Vijendra Singh, National Coordinator of IUPAC GWB 2023. Today, we also have Professor Kali Prashanna Dhara Sir and Professor Ashutosh Ghosh Sir as resource person who will enrich all of us by sharing their vast repertoire of knowledge. The IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast is celebrated today across the world. This is closer to the United Nations Day of Women and Girls in Science. The theme of IUPAC GWB 2023 is Breaking Barriers in Sciences as part of the UNESCO International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. This event will be a celebration of women in chemical sciences and their contributions and success. IUPAC is in a unique position to serve as a leading organization and global platform where these issues can be addressed. Right now, I am going to share a 5-minute short video prepared by IUPAC and has asked all the coordinators to play in front of all of you. Just give me 5 minutes.
Morning and welcome to the 2023 Global Women Breakfast. Since 2019 and coinciding with the United Nations Day of Women and Girls in Science, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry has been organizing this event to celebrate, connect and empower women scientists worldwide and to break barriers in science, which is the theme of this year's edition. Diversity not only makes teams more effective, as many studies show, but it also makes us better people and contributes to creating happier, more inclusive societies. That's why I invite all of you, men and women, to talk about how to break down any barriers that people in your workplace may face in reaching their full potential.
The early composition of my lab at Berkeley, in fact, really the core people that did the work that the Nobel Foundation has recognized me for, if you look at that group of people, they are far more diverse than certainly at that time you would see in the average chemistry laboratory. I had a preponderance of female grad students at a time when our representation in the graduate program at Berkeley was maybe 30%. No, I was over half. I had people from different backgrounds, people who identify as underrepresented minorities. And I think that diversity of people created an environment where we felt we didn't have to play by the same old rules as scientists. We could do things like organic chemistry in living animals. Why not? Right? We didn't have to play by the rules. If there weren't the right chemistries to get the job done, we could invent new chemistries. Why not? We didn't have to play by the rules. I was very fortunate that I could actually play a supportive role in my lab and let that diverse group of students find their voice, realize their curiosity, break the rules, and do something that 25 years later, some people found impactful. And I owe them a great debt of gratitude.
The 2023 Global Women Breakfast is particularly special because IUPAC has joined with all international scientific unions and science academies worldwide as part of the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development to work together toward goal number 5, which is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, also in science.
The IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast in Nigeria has been successful thanks to chapter coordinators Women in Chemistry and the other organizers. We have had over 100 breakfast meetings since 2019. These meetings have fostered networking, mentoring, and collaborations. A lot of girls have been enlightened about the career prospects in chemistry. Our male counterparts are well aware of the need to support women scientists, and many more professionals are involved in IUPAC activities as champions for change.
By taking part in the 2023 Global Women Breakfast, you are joining thousands of people in hundreds of cities around the world, which are celebrating, empowering, and connecting men and women to build a better, more inclusive world. Welcome to this global networking event, and do not hesitate to share the outcomes of your conversations with us. And please, enjoy your breakfast.
Thank you. This particular program has been conceived and conceptualized by the Department of Chemistry, Rani Rashmani Green University, ACT Mumbai, and IQAC Government General Degree College, Shingur. It is because of their relentless endeavor to make this program happen that we have been able to materialize it today. Rani Rashmani Green University is a newly established university under the government of West Bengal in the district of Hooghly, West Bengal, India. The diligent efforts of Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Ashutosh Ghosh sir, faculty members, the support staff, and the administrative body endeavor to kindle in the learners the spirit of inquiry, thereby inspiring them to tread the path of research in the forthcoming years of their lives. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir has requested me to continue the proceedings. He will join shortly. Government General Degree College, Shingur, is the youngest government college in the district of Hooghly, affiliated to the University of Burdwan, West Bengal. The college boasts of a dedicated and erudite faculty who strive to create a milieu in the college that is conducive to learning for students and teachers alike. Numerous academic projects, scholarly discussions, enrichment programs, organizing social and cultural events constitute the annual activity calendar of our college. Each faculty member is actively attached to modern day research, and many of them are engaged in projects with notable research organizations across the country. With a view to merge culture and academics, the college seeks to enlighten each student with knowledge beyond the ordinary. Students who have already graduated from this institution hold their alma mater in high regard, not only because of what they have been able to learn here, but also because of what has made them into well-balanced individuals, spearheading the next generation towards a glorious tomorrow. Government General Degree College Shingur will continue to engender such pioneers for the society in the days to come. The tireless efforts of our respected principal, Sir, Professor Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, ensured the smooth functioning of the entire college and involve all the students in inquiry-based learning so that they may be dissuaded from learning by rote. May I now invite Professor Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, sir, to say a few words. Sir, please.
Thank you, Amrit. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Government General Degree College, Shingur, Hooghly, West Bengal, India, the IQAC, and the Department of Chemistry, both of this college and the Rani Rashmani Green University, Tarakeshwar, Hooghly, West Bengal, India, in association with Association of Chemistry Teachers, headquartered Homi Bhabha Center for Center of Science Education, TIFR Mumbai. On behalf of all, I welcome you to the Global Women's Breakfast in collaboration with IUPAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. The theme of this program is Breaking Barrier in Science. Today, almost 400 Global Women's Breakfast events from 63 countries are taking place all over the world. We are highly honored to be a part of this big event. Our speakers today are Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the new university, Rani Rashmani Green University, and Professor Kali Prasanna Dhara, retired professor from the University of Calcutta. I would like to thank Professor D.B. Prabhu, General Secretary, ACT, Professor Brijesh Pare, President ACT, and Professor Bijendra Singh, National Convener, Global Women's Breakfast 2023, for extending their support for such a wonderful academic endeavor. I would also like to thank Department of Chemistry, Rani Rashmani Green University, Dr. Chaitali Chaudhuri, the IQAC Coordinator, Government General Degree College, Shingur, all the teachers and staff of the Chemistry Department of this college, for taking such initiative to organize an event in collaboration with an organization of international repute like IUPAC. There are numerous students presently participating in this webinar as audience who I firmly believe will be enriched by listening to our honorable speakers today and from also the inputs given by several eminent personalities whom we have in our midst of this afternoon. I extend my best wishes to all of them and especially to Amrit for his never tiring effort for development of his subject and for this type of programs. I would like to thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Association of Chemistry Teachers, Mumbai, endeavors to reach out to every student with an aptitude for science and every teacher related to the world of chemistry and propagate the subject as a discipline and a topic of research. ACT is a large family with teachers coming from all over India dedicated to the service of chemistry education. Alongside a mentor like Professor D.B. Prabhu, General Secretary of ACT, the members of ACT are extremely fortunate to be under the guidance of Professor Dr. Brijesh Pare, sir, President of ACT. Words fall short to describe his magnificent administrative ability. His attitude towards creation of an ambient environment for the benefit of students, generating greater interest in the subject amongst learners, handling difficult situations with optimism and sheer dexterity is exemplary. It is our great honor to welcome Professor Brijesh Pare, sir, to deliver the presidential address. Sir, please.
Yeah. Good evening, Amrit. It's really a pleasure to be the part of this program. Honorable Vice Chancellor, of Rani Rashomati Green University, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, principal of this college, Professor Santanu Chakrabarti, and my friend Amrit Mitra, and my another friend, Professor Vijendra Singh, and both the speakers, the honorable speakers for today. It's a really great occasion to be the part of this program, Yeah, and Amrit has already initiated the whole program and has really explained the things, and in fact, the video was quite explanatory, that why we are here today for this program. Yeah. Before, I mean, two years, during the pandemic, it was done only online, but this year I have seen and I have noticed that the program has been taking place in a hybrid mode, but still online, hybrid and offline, it's a great opportunity always. Global Breakfast, is an event by IUPAC. It happens every year, and the aim is to celebrate the accomplishment and the achievements of women in science particularly, and to inspire the young generation to pursue STEM career. Women and men, from all types of science organizations are coming together to share breakfast, either virtually or in person, as the case may be, like in my institute this morning, we had offline mode, kind of thing. And so it could be virtual or in person. The central goal, for this program is also to establish an active network of both men and women to increase diversity in all aspects of science. One beautiful line, the IUPAC president, Xavier Martinez, has said, and to add to that, I would say diversity is essential to delivering excellence in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics particularly. A diverse and inclusive scientific workforce draws from the widest range of backgrounds, different perspectives, and experiences lead to maximizing innovation and creativity in science for the benefit of humanity. That's what we are looking for, for the diversity, because that is a cognitive fact. Then if the group is highly diversified, it is a possibility that it would be more creative and leading to the more innovations. So that is one of the purposes. The Global Breakfast, of course, facilitates the formation of communities as we are doing it, like either on a local level or regional or international scale, to effectively share ideas and strategies for the progress. That is what we are trying to do with this program. What I see the things, as far as the inequality and disparity is concerned, it is a human nature that is, of course, there. But just looking to the historical events, those who have taken place, in the last 50 or 100 years, we can really relax upon that the society is, of course, improving to a great extent. A lot of discriminations, a lot of disparity and inequality have been eradicated. But this is not the ideal situation, and definitely a lot has to be done. I would like to recall, some of the things, because as Amrit said, there are students from postgraduate and research scholars, so they might be knowing, that how was the society earlier, So whenever you go to any science book or any history book, so they are just full of a lot of mentions and stories of great man, and many of whom were, of course, not that great. Many incredible women, those who have created and contributed many things in science, particularly, they have often been just written off. And many times because some man was there to take the credit of her work. You might have read about this story. I will just try to give you one or two stories. One is of the Rosalind Franklin, the double helix story. So two persons we all know, the James Watson and Francis Crick from the Cambridge University. They are mostly credited for discovering the double helix strand structure of DNA, which pushed forward, all our understanding of the human DNA to a great extent. But as a matter of fact, it was a British chemist, a lady, X-ray crystallographer, Rosalind Franklin, who produced the one groundbreaking image. And the photo 51, it is very popular, the photograph. And sometimes it is said as the most beautiful photograph, that is the photo 51, and it is just nothing but the X-ray, the diffraction photograph of DNA. So while she was engaged in working, the research at King's College somewhere in 1951, so and there she produced this groundbreaking image of DNA. That is the most basic thing. But what happened, as the story goes, that one of her colleagues showed this image, that photo 51, to the male scientist duo, these two guys, without telling Franklin, of course. And it took Franklin a year more to fully interpret and describe the double helix structure, that she was working on it, But the other people, they are working on a different manner. 2 years later, the Watson and Crick published their findings in 53. Franklin was published in the same journal, but in later pages. And which probably gave people the idea that her work was, in fact, was supporting the other two work, that. A year later, unfortunately, Rosalind died of ovarian cancer, and 4 years later, Watson and Crick picked up the Nobel Prize in 1958 for the double helix discovery. So, this was a kind of, if the story is true, then it's really a kind of an injustice. And apart from the work, this lady, she not only did this particular thing, but she unraveled the structure and porosity of coal for her PhD thesis, and which led to the British to develop the better gas mask. It was a time of that Second World War, and that research of this particular lady helped a lot. And she also worked on RNA and viruses supported chemistry on RNA, and that was supported chemistry Nobel Prize. Another fellow, the Klug's work on 3D images. So this was one of the stories, I always reading, so I always felt that what was the society, because now the days have gone, and it is not possible that this kind of thing can be done, particularly with the women. One more simple example I will just note, because this is the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. So I recall the Eunice Foote, that. And we all know that Tyndall, the British scientist Tyndall, is most often credited for discovering the greenhouse effect, the gradual warming of Earth's atmosphere, which is the foundational discovery in the field of climate science. But as a matter of fact, again, it was the Eunice Foote, a pioneering American scientist, a lady who, in fact, carried out very meticulously a very simple experiment, but it was a path-breaking, She conducted a series of experiments where filled glass cylinders with different gases and kept them in the sun, under the sun, to measure how the temperature changes differed. That was the study. So Eunice Foote found that the sun's rays were warmer when passing through the moist air rather than the dry. And the warmest, of course, when passing through the carbon dioxide. So that was the breakthrough. And she did publish her findings in the American Journal of Science somewhere in 1957, but she was not even allowed to present her research work. That was the state of society at a scientific conference, and had to ask a male colleague to do it for her. So, these are some, there may be many more such stories, but I just wanted to recall it at this stage, that this was the status of the society. This was the grave inequality, and particularly for the women. So, but anyway, the good news is that we have traveled a lot of distance. Today, the scenario is quite different. A lot of good things are happening, but still, if there is anything, there is an iota of inequality, indifference, or kind of thing. So that has to be taken into consideration, and the society must collectively work on it to eradicate it. So with these words, I congratulate Dr. Amrit Mitra on behalf of the Association of Chemistry Teachers, on my personal behalf, and on behalf of the SCT, for conducting such a wonderful program and inviting wonderful speakers. So we are looking forward to listen to all our renowned speakers. Thank you very much, Dr. Amrit.
Thank you, respected sir, for enriching us in such an eloquent way. Thank you, sir. The first speaker of today's session is our beloved, respected Professor Kali Prashanna Dhara sir. Sir completed his PhD from the University of Calcutta under the guidance of Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee Madam. Sir completed his postdoctoral research in the Department of Forest Products at Virginia Tech, Virginia, USA. Professor Kali Prasanna Dhara sir was also associated with the University of Kalyani. His chief area of research is chemistry of natural products and reaction methodology. Sir has published numerous research articles in the journals of international repute. 5 students have completed their PhD under the supervision of Professor Kali Prasanna Dhara sir. We have always known sir to be extremely helpful towards students and dedicated to the service of chemistry education. Sir has always supported the student community with unquestionable commitment and sincerity. May I now request Professor Kali Prasanna Dhara sir to deliver his presentation.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Amrit, for your kind introduction.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Principal, Government Degree College, Singur, Honorable President, Association of Chemistry Teachers, Honorable General Secretary, the Association of the Chemistry Teachers, Honorable National Convener, IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast, and Honorable IUPAC Coordinator, Government Degree General College. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Is it visible? The first slide? Is it the first slide visible?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you make it full screen?
Is the first slide visible?
Yes, yes, visible, sir.
Okay. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the organizers of the Women's Breakfast meeting, especially to Dr. Amrit Mitra, on the theme Breaking Barriers in Science, to give me an opportunity to discuss the life and works of my revered teacher, Professor Ashima Chatterjee. I mentioned her as an ardent believer in Indian medicinal plants. During her times, respected organic chemist in our country had done commendable research on chemical exploration of medicinal plants of our country. Professor Chatterjee was different among them. She alone had tried to explore the usefulness of those plants on chemical and pharmacological standpoint. In next 1 hour, I shall try to highlight those aspects against the odds she had to face. I have mentioned the picture is taken from the biographical papers of INSA Fellows, where her signature is inscribed. You will have a look of her handwriting. On 23rd September 2017, Google users all over the world had seen this doodle on Google homepage. And that doodle shows that the Ashima Chatterjee's face in the center of hexagons and leaves to signify her breakthrough work with chemistry and plants. We, the students of her, were very much delighted for this unique way of paying homage to our teacher. This is an interview which was published in a Bengali periodical in 1990. And I have done a free translation of a part of the interview from Bengali to English, which I believe I should read out to confirm my choice of the title. What she had said in this interview, I quote, "I was familiar with plants, with nature, even from my childhood. Since then, I had the volition, for which my father had also shown interest, that if I could pass MSc and enter into research, I would work on medicinal plants. then many things can be done later. We can prepare many herbs which can be useful to the public, and we can verify the various mentions of plants in our Choroko and Sushruta, how they are really useful or how much they are useful. I unquote. Now, this is the idea of Professor Chatterjee, and I said that her father was interested about her research on medicinal plants. Family members were always her strength. Our father, Dr. Indranath Mukherjee, was a medical person and a faculty of well-known college in Kolkata. Mother, Kamala Devi, was a homemaker. Her younger brother, Professor Soroshi Ranjan Mukherjee, a reputed physician and brilliant researcher, and also a Bhatnagar Award in medical science. I am not aware that there is any other family in India where both children got Bhatnagar Awards. Our husband, Professor Borodananda Chatterjee, was a renowned physical chemist and authority on soil science and corrosion. He was the vice principal when he died in the younger age. He was the vice principal of the Bengal Engineering College, which is now known as IIEST Shibpur. Our only child, Professor Julie Banerjee, and son-in-law, Professor Rohit Banerjee, followed her footsteps. And all of them were strength in different parts of her life. Professor Chatterjee had shown the promise to be exceptional from her early stage of academic career. Both matriculation examination and ISA examination, she got prizes and scholarships, scoring very high marks. Then comes the studying the BSc in chemistry honors. Now, at that point of time in 1936, there is only one college where the lady students can be taught can be taught with the honors in chemistry, that is Scottish Church College, which is incidentally was co-educational. Obviously, her relatives, not her parents, or neither any one of her own relatives, or see the other relatives, they objected because they wanted the girl to be a homemaker. But her mother had shown the courage to overrule her relatives' objections. You can easily understand how was the repercussion at that point of time. Her post-graduation studies in chemistry were also successful, as in previous cases. As you see, he is the recipient of Jogomaya Devi Gold Medal. And in her postgraduate studies in the University of Calcutta, she had teachers like Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, Professor Prafulla Chandra Mitra, Priyodaya Ranjan Ray, Gyanendra Mukherjee, Pulin Bihari Sarkar, Jogendra Chandra Bardhan. They're all in big names in Indian chemistry. And also Prafulla Kumar Bose, with whom she did his MSc thesis and then joined her research group for doing doctoral work. Dr. Bose had worked with German national product chemist Professor Ernest Speth. And then she was awarded the DSc in 1944 from Calcutta University. She is the first lady DSc from any Indian university. The title of the thesis I have given here, and the name of the winners which are given here: Sir Alexander Todd, FRS NL, Professor R.D. Howard, and Professor George Clemo, both are FRSs, are really the luminaries in the field of chemistry. So you can easily understand the standard of her DSc thesis. In her DSc thesis, she had discussed the isolation and partial structure elucidation. Isolation is reported in 1941 paper, but partial structure isolation of Raoulsin, the compound obtained from Raoulfia canesis. However, she took up the studies coming afterwards and completed the structure, but not the complete structure with stereochemistry in 1954. The final structure and stereochemistry, all different types of compound related to the reserpine, desirpidine, and other alkaloids. That was the title of a JSS paper, published. It's a collaborative paper. It's a contribution of 17 authors comprising of 4 different laboratories of USA and Europe in 1959 only. However, I want to mention one thing, that the same Rahul Singh has three synonyms, that before her isolation work, it was published from from different sources in two different laboratories in Europe, and after her work, another compound was named differently, coordinated in 1946. So why it happened so? The only answer to this problem is that less number of journals and their limited availability among the research fraternity. In her DSc thesis, she completed the structural isolation and structural elucidation of a compound Luvangatin is coumarins from Luvanga scandens. She published the paper in 1940 with Professor Ernest Speth and Professor Hans Schmidt. The latter became a good friend of her at the future work. Now, since xanthioletin was the congener and the structure was known earlier, so it was not difficult for her to determine the structure of Luvangatin within the span of work she did in her DSc thesis. Now, while working for DSc, she got the invitation to join the Department of Chemistry as a founder head in the Lady Brabourne College in Calcutta. And she joined the laboratory. There was a debate among the teachers that whether she should join or continue her research. It was Acharya P.C. Ray who told her that you join in the Lady Brabourne College and continue research in Science College. That's why she did her DSc. And after her doing her DSc, she became the honorary lecturer of the Department of Chemistry, Calcutta University. Only in 1954, she had joined the Department of Chemistry as a reader and then became the Khoira Professor of Chemistry in 1962. She continued her relation with Calcutta University as an honorary program coordinator, Center of Advanced Studies in Chemistry of Natural Products from 1972 to 1998, and then became an advisor from 1998 till her death in 2006. In between 1947 to 1950, she visited USA and Europe for doing postdoctoral work with Professors L.M. Parks, University of Wisconsin, Professor L. Jackmeister in California Institute of Technology, Pasadena, USA, and Professor Paul Carrer, Nobel laureate in University of Zurich. Now, work with Professor Paul Carrer with biologically active indole alkaloid actually initiated her into the research in indole alkaloid as a lifelong interest. And I will discuss you later that she became widely acclaimed as an expert in this field. Now let me talk about the postdoctoral work. If you look at this, the lag, the work done by the Professor Carrer isolated the compound corinanthin in 1926, work till Professor Chatterjee in 1950. However, the stereochemistry was elucidated by Van Tamelen, Professor Van Tamelen in 1957. Van Tamelen is in USA, who synthesized in 1969. So you can see the lag between these periods. Similarly, for LM, the work compound verbenylin, which Professor Chatterjee works with Professor Parks. In 1949, the structure and stereochemistry was determined by Professor Bucke and Professor Manning in 1962. So why this lag? I mentioned here, I made a comment here, that elucidation of stereochemistry of natural products, achievable only around 1955. earlier case, we have seen that the paper, all the collaborative paper which are mentioned in earlier case, that was published in 1959. Now this is 1957 and 1962 and 1969. So why it is so? Before going to why it is so, to explain this situation, let us see the total research work of Professor Chatterjee in her professional career. This total research publication is 350, with the MSc thesis 1 and DSc thesis 11. That means his DSc thesis contains almost 11 publications. For postdoctoral work, she had 6 publications. She guided 62 research students. Among them, 3 were in DSc and 59 were PhD. And 100 plant species covering 30 genera were investigated by her research group, and more than 40 new compounds were isolated and characterized. But if you think about the research necessary, for research on natural product chemistry, what are the necessary, not necessary conditions? Now, for the determination of structures of organic compounds extracted from plants or obtained by synthetic methods, requires various spectroscopy studies: the ultraviolet and visible, infrared, NMR, and mass spectrum. X-ray crystallography studies are also required sometimes. From 1940, UVVs and later IR spectrometers became available to organic chemists. NMR and mass spectral instruments began to be developed only in the mid-50s of our previous century. So you can easily understand why the stereochemistry of these compounds could only be achievable after 1955. At that time, of course, the application of X-ray crystallography had also started. Now the question of facilities available for natural products research in Calcutta University. I have given the chronological data in 2 slides, and you can see that from 1972 only UVV spectrometer and CH analyzer were there. Only in 1972, the program for special assistance was sanctioned to the organic section, and a Beckman IR20 spectrometer and polarimeter were added. Now, how come this program of special assistance could be sanctioned by UGC? Only from the work done by Professor Chatterjee and her colleagues in the department. And how they have done this spectra? Definitely procuring them from different laboratories in India and abroad, or collaborating with them. We'll see some of these results then. The program was upgraded to Center of Advanced Studies in 1985, and since 2003 as Center of Advanced Studies in Natural Products, including organic synthesis. And during this 1975-1982, UNESCO NDP assistance came to organic section, and that gives CFT20 NMR spectrometer and HPLC. And the only Supercon 300 megahertz NMR spectrometer is available after her retirement in 1986, which is the retirement year of Professor Chatterjee from official services 1982. In 1976, funds from UGC procured to construct 3 floors on a ground floor building in Science College to accommodate sophisticated instruments and space for research laboratories and expansion of departmental library. This way, Professor Chatterjee has developed the chemistry department, organic section of the chemistry department, as a center for advanced studies in natural product chemistry, or a school of natural product chemistry, almost single-handedly. This is reflected also here. If you see the year-wise publication, I mentioned the red color here. I think it is all visible to you. Except in 1954, 11 publication, 1957, there is average in 2 and 3 and 4 like that. But from 1959 to 1968, it was 2-figure numbers, almost all the cases, and going up to 15 per year. Then it comes to an average of 6, 7, and then it goes to 1976, 77, 78, the 2-figure, and it continues till 1982 with the average of 7. So you can easily understand that all these things have been done before 1972 and after 1972, after procurement of the instruments. What Professor Chatterjee has to do and the research group has to do on the odds, and still they are going to have good publications. This was also reflected in the terms of the number of PhDs theses submitted by the students. In 1963, PhD students submitted their thesis. And in 1964, it is 3. In 1966, it is 4 PhD students submitted the thesis. In 1968, 5 PhD students have submitted their thesis. And 1970 and 72, 3 each in every year. And then it comes to a general of 2 per each year. And lastly, in 1986, 4 PhD students have submitted their thesis. So actually, there is a big difference from 1972 earlier and 1972 later, after obtaining the program assistant studies, how they work in these conditions, where there is a minimum facilities for spectral studies. Still after that, the research topics they have covered is a wide range. Almost all types of compounds have been covered. These alkaloids, of all types of alkaloids, indole, steroid, isoquinoline, pyridone, and amide alkaloids, terpenoids, triterpenes, tetra-not triterpenes, and diterpenes, oxygen heterocycles, coumarins, fluorocoumarins, lignin, and xanthones. Simultaneously, the group also involved in studies on transformation reactions and studying their mechanisms. And at the last end of her career, she undertook some synthesis of natural products also. And that is the total research topics she had done. But special mentions is that the Professor Chatterjee I mentioned about you, the Professor Chatterjee gained international fame for the isolation and determination of structure with stereochemistry of a variety of indole alkaloids from plants. Of particular note are Rauwolfia, Vinca, Alstonia, Razzia, and Kopsia species of plants with various structures of monomeric and dimeric C19, C20 indole alkaloids. Now, most important is the third point. To understand the processes of synthesis of organic compounds in plants, which we called as the biosynthesis, scientists all over the world used to look at the researches carried out in our laboratory for the isolation of predicted intermediates. And you can easily understand how much important they put in their research publications. Now I go to the compounds. The 2 compounds, as I mentioned here, I have given the structure of coordinathin here in between the period. In between strictamine, the compound. And if you look at the structure, this ring is opened. Now, if this ring can bind here or there in that way, so strictamine was isolated by Trozanek in 1960, but Professor Chatterjee could establish the structure which corrects stereochemistry in 1966 with Professor Klaus Bremen and publication in JOC, Journal of Organic Chemistry, which was later confirmed by Ataur Rahman of Pakistan from crystal structure studies. For resin obtained from the Razzia stricta, and actually Professor Henry isolated this compound in 1932 from and named it as an aquamidine. Professor Janot worked on this aquamidine and gave a structure in 1961, and Professor Chatterjee worked on the same compound from Razzia stricta, and she named it as a resin. She first published in 1961, and then in 1962 she confirms the stereochemistry of this part, which was later confirmed by Slivers in 1962 from crystal structure studies. But these are the successes. And these successes came from her intuitions, which she gathered from the structural elucidation of this coordinathin and her own compound, Rauwolfia. However, she was not able to confirm the structure of copsin, on which she worked for a long period of time from 1949 to 1962. Long 13 years she worked on this compound from Kopsia fruticosa. The compound was isolated as early as 1890, but she got it in 1949 from Kopsia fruticosa in our case. And 1962 he gave this structure, which was found to be wrong by Professor Govindachari and Professor Reed in three publications, in Helvetia Chemical Act in 1962 and 63, they confirmed this structure and stereochemistry, which is later confirmed by X studies. Now, the compound acetamine, Professor Chatterjee worked for a long period of time also in this compound. But both Professor Chatterjee and Professor Birch failed to understand the 6-6, it is C and D ring. Now, it is C ring is being reduced to 6-membered to 5-membered, and D ring is transformed to the D 6-membered to 7-membered. So it is a C nor D homoindiol alkaloid. Otherwise, it is a similar like the one we have seen before. So Hamilton is the person, Professor Hamilton, who established this structure first, only from the X-ray crystal studies. That was the acetamine. So in that way, because of the non-availability of the instruments and sufficient spectral data, and also always they have to depend on some kind of intuitions, which sometimes fails in their cases. After 1972, in 1977, Professor Chatterjee isolated nodeline from Alstonia solaris, and you can look at the structure. The 6-membered ring ends remains 6-membered, the D ring, but C ring has turned as an oxygen, functionalized with oxygen, and become a larger ring. Professor Chatterjee collaborated with Professor Hans Schmidt, as he mentioned earlier, and the structure was confirmed only from crystal structure studies. Whereas flexicorin is a dimeric indole alkaloid, and this, you can look at the compound. They just told that this acetamine structure, this part, and this is a very different structure of the similar structure, which is the resin type of structure. It is a strictamine type of structure. Strictamine resin combination, in fact. When Chatterjee determined this structure, but he was in confusion. Why? Because the flexicorin compound was red in color. And when it's reduced to sodium borohydride in methanol, this iminoquinone derivative was reduced to the white, it's a phenolic compound. That means the phenolic indole structure. Now, in that case, but it immediately is oxidized to the red compound in air only. That's why she has to collaborate with Professor Hagemann in 1982, who took up the challenge and did the 13C NMR spectra in her instrument in situ and doing the experiment of the borohydride reduction in methanol in her NMR tube and reading the 330 NMR studies in her NMR machine and arrive at this structure. So this is a very unusual iminoquinone structure that was established only from the C30 NMR studies carried out by Hagemann. Steroid alkaloids, both conemorphine both these steroid alkaloids, in fact, are biogenetically very important. Those who are aware of the steroid structure, they know that the side chain has been knocked out and amino group is here, placed here. But that means the amino groups comes here. And also the amino group here, these are biosynthetically unusual. But they have isolated the compound, and of course, they can easily synthesize this compound and published in 1967. However, in Kashmirin is a C0D homo steroid alkaloid with a D by E ring juncture or cis. It is only compound isolated yet. And Professor Chatterjee got the X structure and published in 1976. Only two in tetrahedral latest journal. Only 2 issues after, Professor Ito published it by same compound named as Imperalin in 1976. So that's Kashmirin is synonymous to the Imperalin. Quinazoline alkaloids, and Professor Chatterjee published the compound glycosine in 1954 in JSCS, And he gave mainly the chemical evidence, but that's only she had. Professor R.N. Chakraborty, he isolated this arborin, a compound, but he could not establish the structure earlier. But in 1961, she gave the structure of this compound, and she found that these two compounds are almost identical in all other physical properties. Now, there was a debate, which was the correct structure. Ultimately, Professor Dr. P.C. Pakrasi in 1963 did the NMR extensive NMR studies and found that they remain in equilibrium even in the NMR tube. But that's why the problem has been solved. Persifluorine is another isocolloid alkaloid. It's a isoboldine structure. It's not much known in the field of isocolloid alkaloids chemistry. Coumadin is a compound. We have known that she had done her DSc thesis with a compound known as luvangatin. She isolated in 1949 marmecin is a dihydrofuranocoumarin compound with a isopropyl side chain. But archengelin is a furanocoumarin with a terpene side chain of 10 C10 carbon, monoterpene side chain, and a C15 side chain with a asafoetidine was isolated in 1968. And they have determined the structure from NMR studies and other physical studies. Diterpene. I'm giving the two examples only here. Both are rearranged type of diterpene. The first one is a crotocaudine, which is a rearranged Lambdon type. Rearranged Lambdon type. I'm sorry. Okay. Rearranged Lambdon type. And that was publication in 1977 in collaboration with Professor Professor Bollmann, Germany, only from the NMR studies. This is a very ingenious process of analysis, and they arrive at this difficult structure. Caliterpinone, incidentally, is a Jeverelin structure, and that was done by Professor Chatterjee's group in 1972. Triterpene, afanamycin. This is a lanosterol type, stanosterol compound, actually. It's a steroid structure, it's a lanosterol type of structure with the side chain being different oxidation patterns. That was reported first in 1967 and correct structure was determined in 1970 by Professor Chatterjee's group after having available all types of NMR spectral data. In farninol, this is an unusual story. Professor Chatterjee got the spectral data from Professor Naturi itself and published in the name of farninol in 1966. Almost at the same time, Professor Naturi found that he has the same compound in her laboratory. Since Naturi supplied this spectra, so both of them has Naturi accepted the name and published separately in different journals in the same year. She worked on oxygen heterocycles also, and the compound Godine is an unusual compound. Both the cis and trans isomers are available from the plant, and their interconversion has also been studied. And xanthone is a dimeric xanthone, not much known in the literature, and named as chirontin. That was published in 1987. So both these compounds were isolated by her students at the later part of her career. Now, as I mentioned about the biosynthesis work, the persons looking, the international community looking for what are laboratory. Glycosine is the most sought after compound for the biosynthetic intermediate of indole alkaloids. Professor Alan Battersby isolated the compound from Vinca rosea in 1969, and only 6 months later, Professor Chatterjee published its isolation from Ragia stricta. Since the compound was isolated from 2 different plants, that confirms its universality as the biosynthetic intermediate. Valsunerol was published by Professor Chatterjee in 1968. This is biosynthetically important because in the biosynthetic pathway of fridolin from squalene epoxide via lupiol, this should be an intermediate. And that was only isolated by Professor Chatterjee's group from Valsura tabulata in 1968. And the structure was done from the mass spectral studies and NMR studies, C13 NMR studies. Sorry, not C13 were available, that's proton NMR studies, etc. And that was found to be correct in all respects. Another plant is Valstonia venenata. That gives rise to 2 compounds, venenatin and alstovenin, with the C3 epimers. Here is the hydrogen is beta, here is the hydrogen is alpha. Now these 3 epimery compounds are not available in one plant. It's not the general case, but it happens in case of Alstonia venenata. The venenatin was isolated and reported by Professor Chatterjee in 63-64. Professor Govindachari reported alstovenin in 1964. And the enoxide of venenatin was reported by Professor Chatterjee in 1965. So, I just have given a glimpse of our work on these compounds. I think I should have added more, but because of the shortage of time, I have to finish it here. And then to go to some reactions. Professor Chatterjee worked on hydramine fission, which is very well-known reactions, but mechanistically it was not studied clearly. Professor Chatterjee established the mechanism of the reaction in a very fundamental way, and that's why it is included in the general textbook Organic Chemistry Volume 2 written by I.L. Finner. This mechanism is very simple. I'm not doing the details of that because any graduate students will understand postgraduate students are aware of this mechanism. The only thing I need to mention that the presence of electron donating group and electron withdrawing group that determines the reaction pathway and rate of the reaction. That was established by Professor Chatterjee in her paper in Journal of Chemical Society in 1961. Yes. Professor Chatterjee did work on azmalicin, the acid catalyzed transformation of this compound. The azmalicin, if you look at the structure, this is the last ring, the E ring, is a heteroium structure, the enol ether. He worked with 5% sulfuric acid, and they found that it was only water molecule added across this double bond. But it is almost in the stereoselective way. And this pathway is not followed. That means no other pathway is not followed. It comes to be both the CO2Me group and OH group is very same, that both are alpha oriented. What happened? She did this work, or repeated this work, with 5% sulfuric acid in methanol. And here, methanol molecule added across the double bond. And both this stereochemistry, both these compounds, both these stereoisomers are obtained. So why the stereoselectivity is maintained, that was looked after. And that gives rise to a publication in Journal of Organic Chemistry in 1982. This is the simple way mechanism that how the water molecule could be added. That's okay. But the most important is that the intramolecular hydrogen bond formation explains the single compound in the first case, which is not possible in case of when you have a OME group is added here. So no intramolecular hydrogen possible. So both the compounds are obtained. But when addition of the water takes place, you have this intramolecular got the preference. Now, this is another reaction I need to discuss in details because Professor Chatterjee gave an idea why this happened, but from a different standpoint. What happens that it is well known in the literature that taraxerol has been converted to beta-amyrin in acid catalyzed conditions. She published in 1976 by doing the reaction in Lewis acid like BF3 ethylate. Then the question raised that how the BF3 complexes with double bond, which phase, in which directions BF3 is complexed. So in 1999, she prepared the two epoxide compounds and reacted with again BF3 diphenyl. And from the extracrystal studies of both the starting material and the product confirms that the opening of the alpha epoxide that I am mentioned here, I have given the stereo structure of these two compounds. Yeah, stereo structure. This is the beta-amyrin. This is the stereo structure. We will go to the structure detail just now. And this is the beta taraxerol. This is the stereo structure is given here. And the mechanism is this. Suggests that the reactions involving migration of groups generally follow the rule that migratory group would approach from opposite face of leaving group. But here, the leaving epoxy group coordinating to BF3 molecule is alpha oriented. They're below the plane of the molecule, and the migratory methyl group is also alpha oriented. Still, migration occurs to yield the product. So, what that means, Professor Kore did a commendable work on calculation of the energy calculation of the pentacyclic titratepine cations and identified that this oleonyl cation is of lowest energy and would be most stable. This is the oleonyl cation and this is the stereo structure of the oleonyl cation. And the calculation work has been published in Journal of American Chemical Society, where you have seen that this compound is the lowest energy of minus 21.05, whereas taraxerol is minus 16.23. And rest are all much above it. So that's why the beta-amyrin is always a product. So either you go from the upper side of the molecule or on the lower side of the molecule. That means if you start with the lupiol, it will go to the beta-amyrin. If you start with the fridinol, that will go to the beta-amyrin. That's why that's happened in case of Professor Kore also. As I said, that later part of her career, she did some synthetic works, but in between period, her research group has done some synthesis of some simple molecules in her laboratory, like coumarins, 4-phenyl coumarins, etc. But Professor Chatterjee is interested for synthesizing complex molecules. You will see in which time he published his papers. But he started the idea that he needs to have a single starting material, single synth. On the basis of that, that could be utilized as a diversity-oriented synthesis of a molecule. So he again changed the course. Isolation work to the synthesis work. Natural product chemistry and synthesis of natural product. Isolation of natural product and synthesis of natural product. So she synthesized this diazoketone. And this utilization of the diazoketone in trifluoroacetic acid, a cyclation takes place, give rise to the indianone derivatives. And then these indianone derivatives were under biophilic oxidation gives rise to isochromanone. And she utilized these isochromanones for synthesis of some of the natural products she had isolated in her laboratory. I've given the only one compound here, that is the norcoralidine. And this is the isochromanone reacted with the amine, got this compound, and directly by Wislas-Napier cyclation type reaction, he did this publication in Synthesis 1981, and then she also synthesized the similar compound with this structure, semparvierin, in tetrahedron 1987. But what is most interesting part, that she started with tryptamine, reacted with this isochromanone, and then got this cyclization stage, reduction, and followed by the Bart's reduction, and then the ketalization, and they ended and the reduction of these steps. So all these steps that's been designed to obtain the compound that is plus minus Raoulsin. The compound, which was the first compound she worked for her DSc thesis. So that way, the cycle has been completed by Professor Chatterjee. And the paper was published in 1986. You can easily understand that in 1982 was official retirement date. But even after that, she put endeavor to work on the synthetic work with Raoulsin, and also semparvierin. The publication was in 1987. And that way, she completed the cycle, Raoulsin isolation and Raoulsin synthesis. But she has to do nothing more than that. Because she had intention to do something for the Ayurveda. As I mentioned in that interview, which I read out earlier, and she did that. For treatment of epilepsy, the Ayurvedic preparation coded IUPAC and similar preparations as anti-malarial IU64 were developed in collaboration with CCRA, Central Council for Research in Ayurveda and Siddha, Government of India. The patent number is this, 141170, dated 14 July 1976 for IU56. IU64 is a different patent number. Not only that, other than this Ayurvedic preparation was tested from biological standpoint, from pharmaceutical standpoint. Professor Mukherjee, our brother, and Professor Chatterjee, they worked together to publication in Journal of Experimental Medical Science in 1963, annual volume of Physiology and Experimental Medical Science in 1960-63, and also the S.N. Bose 70th, Professor Satyendranath Bose 70th birthday commemoration volume in 1964. Actually, it was Professor S.N. Bose was very much interested, and for this work, especially the plants, the active principles. IUPAC was prepared from two herbs, Marsilia minuta, which contains marsilin, which is a sleep-inducing compound, and Nordrostasis jotamansis grass. And IUPAC was a combination of four herbs, Alstonia solaris, Schwarzia cirata, Picrologia curau, and Sizzlepania crista. So all these plants were mixed up in Ayurvedic way, and they prepared this compound. These Ayurvedic preparations. I'm sorry, not the compound. Now, IU64 is reported to have some effect in case of in case of corona period or corona diseases. Much still more to do for Ayurveda. She has to build up a hospital with the donation of 3 acres of land in Salt Lake, Kolkata, free of cost from the then Chief Minister, Mr. Jyoti Basu, and a grant of ₹4 crores from Government of India. Central Research Institute Ayurveda with hospital facility were built up. It was built up in 2005, and she could have seen the building and inaugurated it. Simultaneously, to get the popularization of Ayurveda, she published 2 works. Bharater Banaushadhi, it's a Bengali, volume 1 to 5 in 1973, and volume 6 in 1977. Publisher is Calcutta University. And between 1994 to 2001, it is understood what is the age of her, what is her age at that point of time. She published in 6 volumes. The Treatise on Indian Medicinal Plants, which is a publisher from CSI New Delhi. So see, what was her intention, which I read out earlier, was she tried her best to keep her intention, best her promise to herself. Awards and recognitions always follow her. I've given some only few. Elected Fellow in the INSA 1960, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award 1961 in phytomedicine, Sir P.C. Ray Award Indian Chemical Society in 1974, elected General President of 62nd Session of Indian Science Congress held in New Delhi in 1975, Sir C.V. Raman Award of the Horiom Osram Trust by University Grants Commission 1982, an Eminent Teacher Award by the University of Calcutta 1997, and much more, obviously. Social commitments. She believes, as a human being, she has to do some social responsibilities. She was the architect for a wing of Bengal Chemical and Pharmaceutical Works Limited, established by Acharya P.C. Dey, in the legal battle against Hex Pharmaceuticals in 1968, not accepting any remuneration. She was also involved in popularization of science through Bengali language and associated with Bangio Vigyan Parishad founded by Professor S.N. Bose. Not only that, she had written a book for school students on Soral Madhyamik Rasayan. That means the chemistry, simple chemistry for class 10. Chemistry book, simple chemistry book for class 10. In recognition of her contribution in phytomedicine and in public life, she was awarded the Civilian Honor Padma Bhushan in 1975 and nominated as member in Rajya Sabha, which you all know, in 1982 to 1990. Now, this lady had been inspired by these 4 personalities. She used to speak about them profusely. And in fact, I have written here in the end that one could write separate chapters to discuss her association with these great personalities. I think I made note 1 or 2 words for them. Acharya Ray used to take care of her, the lone lady researcher in the department, sometimes providing tiffins. They used to say all these things. So many things are said. I have given only this data. She met for Professor Linus Pauling. She met Professor Linus Pauling in Caltech when he was working with Professor Dale Jackmeister. And the Pauling blog available in the internet would inform us about the warmth of the relationship. I'm just taking not discussing the details of this work. Professor S.N. Bose, as I mentioned, he took personal interest in the work on Marcellin, the active ingredient of IUS 56. And for that reason, both the brothers and these 2 children, rather I should say, the Professor Chatterjee and Professor Mukherjee had published their work in S.N. Bose 70 years past commemoration volume. Lastly, Swami Abhayananda, Bharat Maharaj of Ramakrishna Math and Mission. He was the person who gave her to come back from the double shock of the deaths of her husband and her father within short intervals in 1967. So you can easily understand. That's why I'm giving the only one data for each of them, but that's not sufficient, to be very honest. And I still stick to my words. One could write separate chapters, discuss association with these personalities. Human values. Everyone who came in contact with her fondly remembers her warmth and affection. Her students reverentially called her master. She was both teacher and preceptor to them. She wished in that interview to work till the last date of her life, and her prayer was admitted. It happened so only 2 months before her taking bed in 2006. He used to come to the laboratory regularly, taking all pains to work towards the first floor of the building. In 2011, a commemorative stamp was published by Indian Council for Medical Research to honor Professor Chatterjee. Is a completion of 5 years of her death. And I think I should stop at here to pay my respect and homage to my revered teacher. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, respected sir, for such an inspiring presentation. We have learned so many things from you. Thank you very much, sir. The forum is now open to questions. Participants who wish to present their questions to the speakers may do so by typing them in the chat box section. No questions. Sir, I have one small question.
Sure.
How Professor Chatterjee did all of this work on structure determination, especially when the infrastructure was not that good at that time?
No. Actually, what happened, I mentioned in several cases, he has to procure the data, spectral data from different laboratories. Actually, when he was working in the 1950s, you have seen the publications from 1954 and 57, now 59, 60, all these things. Now, the spectral data was available from her not before 1954, you can easily understand that. And then he has to get the spectral data from different friends abroad. Yes. They really regarded her for a dedication and perseverance that we always look forward for success. And that's why, and then work hard for these things. Number one. Number two, to all other compounds, if you have the stereochemistry aspect, you have mainly the indole alkaloids and terpenoids compounds mainly. But generally, all other compounds, if you look at this isoquinol, all alkaloids like isoquinol alkaloids or the compounds like especially isoquinol alkaloids and coumarins, these are only simple planar molecules. That was very easy for her because she had worked several times. She had the intuition power. But for indole alkaloids and for especially for indole alkaloids and the terpenes and triterpenes, she used to learn always just to get into the process and then get this spectral data from the different parts of the world. As I mentioned, was Naturi. You can easily understand the story. The Naturi supplied the spectral data for the fundinol. Professor Chatterjee published it. And then Naturi found that the same compound was available in her laboratory, in his laboratory. So she has accepted it. So that way, she goes on like this. This is the story for her success.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Actually, our speakers are so eloquent and mesmerizing that we do not want to let them go. It is actually a great experience to listen to you, sir. Thank you for enriching us in this way. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is now our immense pleasure to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir Professor Ashutosh Ghosh. At present, Sir is the Vice Chancellor of Rani Rashmani Green University. Sir was previously the Vice Chancellor of the University of Calcutta. I am sure if I keep citing Sir's accomplishments, our session will end, but the list will go on. However, to name a few, Sir was the UNESCO Fellow, Charles University, Prague, Czechoslovakia. He was the Monbusho Fellow in the Department of Chemistry, Nagoya University, Nagoya, Japan. Sir was also the prestigious JSPS Fellow, Department of Chemistry, Shukuba University, Shukuba, Japan. Sir was also invited as a visiting scientist, Department of Chemistry, University of Utah, Salt Lake City, USA. Sir was also the visiting professor, INSA DFG Bilateral Exchange Program in the University of Dusseldorf and University of Münster, Germany. Sir has received several awards and fellowships throughout his career. Just to name a few: Rheometric Scientific ITAS Award in the year 1995, presented by the Indian Thermal Analysis Society for outstanding contributions in the field of thermal analysis. Sir was the recipient of CRSI Bronze Medal in the year 2016 presented by Chemical Research Society of India in recognition of contributions to research in chemistry. Sir was the fellow of West Bengal Academy of Science and Technology in the year 2013. Sir is also the fellow of Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore since 2017. Numerous students, if I am not mistaken, more than 20, have completed their doctoral and postdoctoral research under the supervision of Sir. Most of his students have been placed in prestigious academic and industrial positions. Apart from such huge accomplishments, Sir has always been a wonderful teacher, mentor, and above all, a kind-hearted person. Our Association of Chemistry Teachers feels honored to confer the Lifetime Achievement Award to Professor Ashutosh Ghosh Sir in the year 2020. Today, all of us are fortunate enough to have you in our midst, respected Sir. May I now invite our respected Sir to deliver his presentation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Amrit. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Wait a minute, please.
Yes, sir.
Now, could you see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Everything is fine?
Yes, sir. Perfect, sir.
Could you see me also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Amrit. Thank you again. So today I shall talk about Marie Curie, radioactivity, and discovery of new elements. That means which Marie Curie discovered, the new elements which Marie Curie discovered. I think all of you know about Marie Curie. I think all the students, all of you know. You also know the radioactivity. But I think most of you, if not all, know also which elements Marie Curie discovered. These are the two elements. I think the students cannot talk, but I think all of you know that two elements which Marie Curie discovered. One is radium, and the other is polonium. These two, here it is radium, and you can see polonium is here. These two elements Marie Curie discovered. These two new elements. At the time of Marie Curie, these elements were not known. So they discovered. So today just I will say something about, first I will say something about Marie Curie, and then I will say how Marie Curie discovered these two elements. So how did she do her research? This is very important. If you see that how laborious it is and how great, what kind of great research she did, and all of you will understand what kind of research, what kind of work she did. So please try to listen, and this is very simple. I will present it in a very simple way, and I think all the students, all of you will understand how to get a Nobel Prize. You know, I think all of you, if all of you can do this kind of research, all of you will get some kind of award or reward. Okay. So just see this one. First, I will say something about Marie Curie. Her name was actually, her original name was not Mary. She was Mania Sklodowska. She was born in Warsaw, Poland, on November 7, 1867. She was the youngest of the 5 children of a couple of school teachers. At that time, you know, the Poland was not an independent country. It was under Russia. By that time, Mary was 7 years old. Her oldest sister died of typhoid and her mother of tuberculosis. At the age of 16, Manna graduated, receiving the gold medal for finishing first among girls in Warsaw. Her older brother, Joseph, had studied medicine in Warsaw, But at that time, no higher education was offered for the young women in Poland. When her older sister, Bronia, decided to study medicine, her choice was to go to St. Petersburg or to France. Because in Poland, they didn't have any scope to study medicine, especially the girl students, they had no scope to study medicine. So, but problem is that they did not have enough money to send young Bronia away from Poland to study medicine. So what you just see, what the Mary did, the Mary offered to go to work as a governess in a small Polish village, and her elder sister promised that she would take care of her when her turn came to study. It means that first her sister will study and Mary will give her money by doing the work of a governess, and after her sister, when her sister graduates, she will give money to Mary to undertake the higher study. In October of 1891, Mary arrived in Paris and entered the Sorbonne, that is the University of Paris, as a student of physics. Just note this part. She was originally the student of physics. Initially, she stayed with her sister, but the apartment was far from the university and too much of socialization there. So she found an apartment, because then she decided that she will not stay with her sister because the apartment is far from the university, and if it is far, she every day she had to commute, and she didn't like that. So she wanted to stay near the university. She found an apartment in a 5th floor walk-up. There was no lift that time, with no heat, and you can understand, because in Paris, especially in winter, it is so cold, but without any heating arrangement, and there was no electricity also. But still she took this university, this apartment, because it was very close to the university and it was cheap. In 1893, she graduated at the top of her class in physics. In physics, the only woman who completed her studies in physics in her class. So she was the only woman who completed the study in physics, and she was the first. She was, you can say, she was the top. She was at the top in her class. The following year, what she did after graduating in physics. In the following year, she received a scholarship from Poland and graduated in mathematics and stood second in her class. So, her, you can say, basic degree was in physics and in mathematics, and in one, in physics, she was first, and in mathematics, she was second in her class. She got a scholarship, just because of her results was so good that she got it. That time it was very difficult to get scholarship, but she got the scholarship because she stood first and then she stood second, and she got the scholarship from the Polish government to study magnetic properties of steel. And then she, that time in Paris, there was no other person better than Pierre Curie for the study of the magnetic properties of any substance. Because Pierre Curie has many, I think all of you know the Curie's law and many other things, about Pierre Curie. Pierre Curie was doing research on the magnetic properties of various materials and discovered many original phenomena in magnetism. And all of you know about the Curie's law. This Curie is the Pierre Curie. And then Marie Curie and Pierre Curie, they got married in 1895. Their first daughter, Irene, Irene was also, that Irene also got the Nobel Prize, was born in September 1897. And in December 1887, it is wrong. It should be 1897. Mary decided to do research for the doctoral degree, because you just see in September her first daughter Irene was born, and in December, that means just after 3 months, she decided to do research for the doctoral degree. So that time Irene was only 3 months old. If you start to do research, if you think that you will do research, first thing what you have to do, you have to choose a research problem. So that time, probably all of you know that in 1895, in November 8, Röntgen discovered X-ray. And X-ray was a sensational discovery, no doubt. And within a year, about 100 articles and 50 books had been published on Röntgen radiation. So X-ray, doing research on X-ray was really exciting, and many people were doing research on X-ray that time. But at the same time, I will say, but Mary decided that she will not do research on X-ray, because many people are doing X-ray, and now X-ray at that time, the use and the source and all other things about X-ray were known. So there was another discovery that time, and that discovery, and after that discovery, that is, the radioactivity. And as all of you know, the Becquerel, he discovered the radioactivity. So in February 1896, Henry Becquerel, he discovered the radioactivity, and all of you know how. First, what he did, Becquerel, he wrapped some photographic plates in black cloth so that the light cannot enter, covered it with a sheet of aluminium, and then placed the crystal of potassium uranyl sulfate on the top of the aluminium. Because it was cloudy in Paris at the time, and he wanted to see the effect of sunlight on the crystals. Because it was cloudy, so he put his experiment in a dark drawer and closed it to wait for a sunny day. On the following day, he came into work and saw that the salts had emitted ray onto the photographic plate while it was in the dark. So from this observation, led to the discovery of the radioactivity. I think all of you know it. So what is the significance of the Becquerel discovery? The significance of Becquerel discovery did not generate much enthusiasm. Because why? Because it was not understood and considered mysterious. The X-ray was not mysterious. People know about the X-ray, what is X-ray, why it is X-ray, and what are the properties of the X-ray. But about the radioactivity, people didn't know anything, and they thought that this is some mysterious property of the material. So you just see how Mary wanted to take the challenge and decided to work on this field because it is mysterious, because it was not understood at the time for her doctoral thesis. What Becquerel did? Becquerel detected uranic ray only qualitatively, as all of you know, in the photographic plate. If the photographic plate is blackened, they can. He told that if it is blackened, then he got the uranic ray, that is the radioactivity. The material is radioactive. So he used only photographic plate, and if photographic plate is blackened, then he can say that it is radioactive. Uranic ray is emitted. But Curie wanted to measure radioactivity quantitatively, and by using the property of ionization of air by uranic ray. If you put, say, when a uranic compound is placed, two metal plates. Say there are two metal plates, two parallel metal plates are there, and if you put these two parallel plates in a pot and close it completely, and then you put some, say, material which is radioactive in one plate. And if it is radioactive, then what will happen? It will ionize the air. As you know that uranic ray, that means the radioactivity, the ray which is coming from the radioactive material, it can ionize the air. So if you put the radioactive metal, radioactive substance in one plate, it will ionize the air around it. So what will happen? The air will be conductor. So if you measure the current, you know, if you measure the current, you just give a potential difference between the two plates, and if there is no ionization, no current will flow, because air is the bad conductor of electricity, and more is the ionization, more will be the current, because now air is now the conductor. If air is ionized, it is conductor. So just by the so what she did, she used the ionizing property of the uranic ray, that is the ray which is coming from the radioactive material. And higher is the ionization, higher is the radioactivity. And she measured the radioactivity quantitatively by this way. Yeah, just I am telling you one thing, you know, she prepared the instrument. Nowadays, we cannot prepare, rather we do not prepare any instrument when we want to do research, because we need sophisticated instrument and we have to buy the instruments from the different companies. But that time it was, you know, it was very common to make the instruments by yourselves. Probably you know that C.V. Raman discovered Raman effect from the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, and he made the instruments there in the cultivation of science, in the workshop of the cultivation of science, by which he detected the Raman effect. So it was very common at that time. So the conductivity imparted to the air can be ascribed to ionization produced by the rays emitted by the uranium compound. So higher is the current, higher is the ionization. That means higher is the radioactivity. This instrument is known as electrometer. In fact, this is Pierre Curie and his brother made this electrometer. They actually, and you know, they use the property of piezoelectricity, and all of you know that piezoelectricity also discovered by Pierre Curie. And by this electrometer, they can measure the radioactivity quantitatively and very precisely. So this is the thing which, you know, the Marie Curie used, but Becquerel didn't use. Becquerel just, he detected radioactivity qualitatively, and Marie Curie measured it quantitatively. So in 1897, using this method of measurement, what she first did, she undertook a study of the radiation of the uranium compound, and soon extended to study the other substances. That means she wanted to know whether other compounds, other elements are also radioactivity. And then she found among the other elements known, only the compounds of thorium behave like a compounds of uranium. That means thorium is also radioactive, and she discovered that. But only a few weeks before Marie Curie discovered it, one German scientist, Smith, had discovered the radiation emitted by the thorium compound. So it was not her original work, you can say, because she discovered this after Smith. Then she shifted her research in some other way. Then what she did, you know, then she measured the radioactivity of all the uranium salt. That means uranium chloride, uranium nitrate, uranium sulfate, some double salt of uranium, and thorium salts, and found that in all compounds, the radioactivity was in direct proportion to the amount of this metal contained in them. That means radioactivity is proportional to the uranium content. It does not depend on the chemical nature of the compound. That means whether it is uranium nitrate or uranium sulfate or some double salt, it is not important. Important is that what is the percentage of uranium in that salt. So from there is important conclusion, and you also read it in your, I think, class 10 or class 12. That is, radioactivity is an atomic property of the element. That means it depends on the atom of the uranium, not on the chemical state of the uranium. And then she measured, after that, she measured the activity of number of minerals. You know, she started to measure the activity of the several minerals. And an unexpected fact was noted. Certain minerals, such as pitchblende, chalcolite, had a greater activity than might be expected on the basis of their uranium content. Thus, certain pitchblendes containing 75% of uranium oxide are about 4 times as radioactive as this oxide. That means it is 4 times more radioactive. Chalcolite is about twice as radioactive as uranium. Chalcolite is a crystallized phosphate of copper and uranium, but its radioactivity is about double, which is expected from the uranium content. This conflicted with the views which held that no minerals should be more radioactive than metallic uranium. To explain this point, she prepared synthetic chalcolite from pure products and obtained crystals whose activity was completely consistent with their uranium content. So in the artificial, in the artificial chalcolite which she prepared, it is property, that means radioactive property, is as expected, but the natural, the chalcolite, it is more radioactive, and also the pitch blende is much more radioactive than is expected from the content of the uranium. So then what she was thinking, she and Pierre Curie was her guide, research guide. They were thinking what could be the reason for this. And this is important. They thought that the greater activity is due to the presence of a small quantity of highly radioactive unknown material present in the small amount. They didn't know it, but they speculated. They thought that there must be some new element, and that time discovery of the new element, you can say, was a very, very popular kind of research, because if you can discover a new element, you will be famous, because many people were trying to discover new elements at that time. They wanted to extract this new element by the ordinary methods of chemical analysis, considering radioactivity as an atomic property of the matter. That means radioactivity will be proportional to the amount of that particular metal, that particular element present in the compound. Each chemical separation is followed by a measurement of the activity of the products obtained. Then every step she measured the radioactivity, whether radioactivity is increasing or decreasing. Probably you have heard the name pitch blende. Pitch blende was the uranium ore, and uranium was extracted from pitch blende. So first, and uranium oxide is soluble in sulfuric acid. So what they were doing, they were dissolving uranium oxide in pitch blende. First, you digest. Digest means that you have to boil. You can say boil uranium, the pitch blende with sulfuric acid for a long time, for several hours, say 6 hours, 7 hours, or 8 hours. We call it digestion. So digest it with sulfuric acid, and uranium oxide, all the uranium compound will get dissolved in sulfuric acid, and the residue was then freed from the residue, which is mostly the sulfate. You can wash with water to free it from sulfuric acid, and then wash, and then you can dissolve it with HCl. Then actually they did what they took the residue, wash the residue with first NOH and then water, and then dissolve it in HCl, and then pass H2S gas through this warm solution. When you are dissolving a substance in HCl and pass H2S gas in the warm solution, if you remember, I think you still remember that in analytical chemistry, when you are separating the group 2A and 2B elements from the other elements, what you do usually, you dissolve them in dilute HCl, usually 0.3 normal HCl, warm it, and pass H2S gas. Probably all of you did this, and she did that part only. So what will happen if you do that? If there is some element like copper, lead, bismuth, arsenic, antimony, that means group 2A and 2B elements are there, then all these elements, the cadmium, all these elements will get precipitated in the acid solution if you pass H2S. And she got a precipitate, and that precipitate, she found there is a precipitate, and then she found that precipitate was lead, bismuth, copper, arsenic, and antimony. Lead, bismuth, and copper is 2A, and group 2A, and arsenic and antimony in group 2B. How to separate group 2A and 2B? You just probably did it. 2A and the 2B precipitates are soluble in ammonium sulfide. So when she warmed it with ammonium sulfide, then arsenic and antimony got dissolved. But the group 2A, that is the lead, probably you remember, that is the lead, bismuth, and copper, they remain as the precipitate. Then what she did, she measured the activity of the precipitate and the solution and found that all the activity is in the precipitate, not in the solution. So if it is, as it is not in the solution, she decided that arsenic and antimony does not contain the radioactive element, the new element. But new element must be with lead, copper, or bismuth. Then she took this sulfide, this precipitate, this insoluble, which is insoluble in ammonium sulfide. Then dissolved this insoluble precipitate in nitric acid. Then sulfuric acid was added. So if you add sulfuric acid in a solution of lead, copper, and bismuth, what will happen? Because lead sulfate is insoluble, so lead will get precipitated. So what will happen? The lead, the lead gets precipitated, and then she checked whether this precipitate contained any radioactivity or not. She found that there is no radioactivity in the lead sulfate, which got precipitated from the solution. So now she understood that the new substance, the new radioactive substance, must be with bismuth and copper. Then she wanted to separate bismuth and copper. What she did, in a solution of bismuth, if you have a solution of bismuth and copper, and if you put ammonia, what will happen? Copper will form Q-primine complex, as you know, this blue-colored complex, which is soluble, and then bismuth will get precipitate as bismuth oxide and hydroxide. And she found that all the radioactivity is with this precipitate, with the bismuth oxide and bismuth hydroxide. That means the new element is with the bismuth oxide. They tried, Pierre Curie and Marie Curie, they tried to separate this new element from bismuth, but they couldn't do the separation. They found that it is always mixed with bismuth, so they cannot separate. But in their diary in 1998, what they wrote, you can see, we obtained a substance whose activity, it is written in the diary. We obtained a substance whose activity is about 400 times greater than that of uranium. If the existence of this new metal is confirmed, we propose to call it polonium from the name of the country of origin of one of us. That means as Marie Curie was from the Poland, so from there its name was given. But that time it was not confirmed because it was mixed with bismuth. It cannot be separated from the bismuth at that time. So now they left that part. They also show that there is some barium sulfate, because they digested the uranium ore with sulfuric acid, and they got precipitate of all the sulfate, and mostly that of barium sulfate. So about 20 kg, crude barium sulfate containing radium are extracted from 1 ton of residue. So 1 ton of residue, there is about 20 kg of barium sulfate, and they got this 20 kg of barium sulfate. The activity of these sulfates, they found that it was between 30 to 60 times greater than that of uranium. So this precipitate must contain some radioactive elements. Initially they thought barium could be the radioactive, but so they took many barium compound and found that other barium compound are not radioactive. So they decided that there must be some new element mixed with this barium sulfate. Then what she did, this sulfate, because barium sulfate is insoluble. All of you know barium sulfate is insoluble, and that time separation is done mostly by the fractional crystallization. And if you want to do the fractional crystallization, probably all of you know what is fractional crystallization, because this was the most, you can say, the most popular and most effective, tools for the separation of the organic and inorganic compounds at that time. So, almost all the people are doing the fractional crystallization. Even if you read about the research of P.C. Ray, you will see that P.C. Ray did a lot of fractional crystallization during his PhD thesis and also when he was the research guide. So fractional crystallization was a very, very important, very effective tool at that time. So she wanted to separate the new element by fractional crystallization. And if you want to do fractional crystallization, what you have to do, if your compound is insoluble, you cannot do fractional crystallization because you have to dissolve it. If it is highly soluble, also you cannot do the fractional crystallization because you cannot get it precipitated. Because in fractional crystallization, what you have to do, just I'll tell you later, you have to take a compound which has moderate solubility, then you can only do the fractional crystallization. Marie Curie found that she wanted to separate barium. So barium chloride has moderate solubility. So if you can prepare barium chloride from barium sulfate, you can do the fractional crystallization. So what she did, probably we are also doing this in our for the insoluble treatment. She mixed the barium sulfate with sodium carbonate, and it can be done in solid state in the fused sodium carbonate, or also it can be done in the concentrated sodium carbonate solution. If you boil it several times, you will get the barium carbonate. You can prepare barium carbonate slowly, but in solution, if you do it, it will take longer time. But if you just fuse barium sulfate with sodium carbonate, the barium sulfate will be converted into barium carbonate rather easily. So she did that, and then dissolved this barium carbonated HCl and then get the precipitate, and she got the barium chlorides, and along with the barium chlorides, the chlorides of the new elements is also formed, which was later known as radium, but that time it was not known. So new elements, chloride was there. And she found that when she was doing the fractional crystallization, if you want to do the fractional crystallization, what you have to do, you have to dissolve the compound in a warm, in the warm solvent, say in water. Solvent here is water, and then you have to boil it for several hours, you can say, to reduce the volume almost to its half. And if you do that, and if you cool it, then what will happen? You will get some crystals, because now you cool it and you concentrated it, and you will also have the mother liquor, and then you have to separate the mother liquor from the crystal. This is the way of fractional crystallization. So in crystal, which part will be concentrated? The compound which is less soluble, that will be concentrated in the precipitate, in the crystals, and the compound which is more soluble, that will be concentrated in the mother liquor. So this is the way. By doing this, she found that the radioactive element is getting concentrated in the crystals. That means its radioactivity, because after every step she was measuring the radioactivity. So she found that when she was doing the fractional crystallization, the crystals which she is getting, that is, radioactivity of that crystal is increasing. That means the new unknown element is concentrating in the crystals. That is, it is less soluble than the barium chloride. To separate the radium from the barium, she did fractional crystallization of the chloride. The radium salt, which is less soluble than the barium salt, becomes concentrated in the crystal. That I have written. So this is the way, how to do the fractional crystallization. This is very tedious process, This is really very, very tedious. And if you know, it is written in the Nobel lecture of Marie Curie that to obtain a very pure salt, she had to perform several thousand times of crystallization. Several thousand crystallization, not once, twice, or 100, but several thousands to get the pure radium salt. The progress of the fractionation is monitored by activity measurement. After each step she measured the activity, the radioactivity, and she found that the radioactivity is gradually increasing, and when it is just constant, then she stopped, and she understood that it is almost now pure. there are several other way, to check the purity of the sample. The first proof of that element of radium, probably the spectroscopic technique is the most important technique and most reliable technique to identify a new element. When the radium is concentrated on the crystal, so they are also taking the spectra of that crystals, and initially they found the spectra of only barium because it contains barium chloride, so they found the spectra of only barium. But when the radioactivity is very high, when the radium is concentrated, gradually a new line appeared. 381, there was no line in the spectra of the barium, and these, as they got a new line, so they understood that there is a new element, and this line is due to that new element. As the activity became more concentrated, that means as the amount of radium is increasing, the new line, the intensity of the new line is also increasing, and other lines, the lines which is due to the barium, all these lines started to disappear from the spectra, because now there is no barium, and there's the amount of radium is increasing, so the intensity of the lines of the radium, which is due to the radium, also increasing, and the spectra of the barium was gradually decreasing. When the purity is very high, the barium spectrum is scarcely visible, or is not almost. You cannot see the spectra of the barium. She repeatedly determined the average atomic weight of the metal. Also she did this by determining the chloride content in the form of silver chloride. So what she did, she added, she took the barium chloride and then added the silver nitrate. She got the precipitate of silver chloride. She weighed she took the weight of silver chloride which is formed, and from there you know probably in your class 10 or class 12 you can see that one equivalent of one equivalent of chloride is always combined with one equivalent of barium or the new element. So she, in this way, she got the atomic weight, and from this atomic weight, she determined the atomic weight. In the beginning, it was 138, because that time it was almost all the elements of barium. But gradually, as the radium has a higher atomic weight, gradually the atomic weight was increasing, and finally, when it was almost pure, she found the atomic weight is about 226.45. It was the maximum atomic weight there. And when she got this one, that time there was no line for the barium. That means it was the pure new element. And then later also, many people prepared, and in that way, because if you want to prepare a new element, you have to. That time it was necessary to say what is the atomic weight of that element. So she determined the atomic weight of the new element in its pure state is about 226.45, and it is also a very classical method, you can say. The preparation of pure radium salts and the determination of the atomic weight of radium have proved that radium is a new element and have enabled a definite position to be assigned to it. Radium is the higher homologue of barium in the family of alkaline earth metals. It has been entered in the Mendeleev's periodic table in the corresponding column on the row containing uranium and thorium. The radium spectrum is very precisely known. These very clear-cut results for radium have convinced chemists and justified the establishment of the new science of radioactive substances. The radioactivity of radium in solid salts about 5 million times greater than that of an equal weight of uranium. So it is highly radioactive. Owing to this activity, its salts are spontaneously luminous. That time, probably, I don't know whether you have seen, we have seen in our watch earlier, there was radium, so that we can see the watch in the night. Many people are also keeping radium at or radium compound at their room so that they can see it in the dark. Radium has been isolated radium has been isolated in the metallic state. The method used consisted in distilling under very pure hydrogen the amalgam of radium formed by the electrolysis of the molten chloride. That means she took the radium chloride and did the electrolysis, and in a cathode which containing the mercury, all the radium, it was concentrated as in mercury as the amalgam. And as it was amalgam, then what she did, she just distilled it, all the separate, and thus separated it from the mercury, and she got the pure metal. And she also found the property of the pure metal. It melts about 700 degrees centigrade, above which temperature it starts to volatilize. It is very unstable in the air and decomposes water vigorously, because she also studied some chemical property and physical property of this radium. So what she did, she isolated and established the radium, without any doubt. And from 1 ton of pitch blende, they were able to extract about only 400 milligram of radium chloride, and it was about 60 to 65% of yield. There are several thousand times steps you can say she did, but still the yield was 60%, which is really, really commendable. You cannot think of it. So extraction of pure polonium was very difficult, because in the mineral it is about 5,000 times less than that of radium, and its half-life is about 140 days compared to the 2,000 years of radium, because its half-life is less and it is also less available. Its availability is also less. That is why it was so difficult, and they cannot actually prepare pure polonium that time, because its half-life is only 140 days. Nevertheless, a few milligram of substance, about 50 times more active than an equal weight of pure radium, in the spectrum of the substance, some new lines could be observed, which appear attributable to polonium, and of which the most important was the wavelength of 4170.5 angstrom. According to the atomic hypothesis of the radioactivity, the polonium spectrum should disappear at the same time as the activity, and this fact can be confirmed experimentally, because its half-life is there. So, just after, you can see this line at 4.70, but after say few days you will not find it, because all the polonium will decay. So now you just tell me how many times, how many Nobel Prize Marie Curie got. As all you know, Marie Curie got 2 Nobel Prize. One is 1903. She got the Nobel Prize along with Becquerel and Pierre Curie for the discovery of the radioactivity. And that Nobel Prize was in physics. And if you see the prize money, Becquerel got the 50% of the prize money, and Marie Curie and Pierre Curie got the another 50%, 25% each. But why she then again got the Nobel Prize in 1911, and that time it was in chemistry? Because she got the Nobel Prize again because she isolated the pure radium, which Pierre Curie or Becquerel didn't do, and she established that it is a new element, and that is why just to isolating the pure radium and and confirming that it is a new element, she got the Nobel Prize in 1911 and in chemistry. And almost you can say that with the similar work, not very different work, not a work, one is in chemistry, another in peace, one in chemistry, another in biology. It's not like that. Very similar work, one in physics and another in chemistry. So just I will say only one thing. I will say, this is the PhD thesis. Marie Curie got the Nobel Prize in 1903, and also this is the year when she became the doctorate. And Marie Curie include this work, the work of the radioactivity in her thesis for the doctorate degree. And the examining committee, there is always some teachers who are examining the PhD thesis, and for the examiners of the Marie Curie, the PhD thesis of the Marie Curie was Henry Moissan. Henry Moissan, he was the inventor of the electric arc, and elemental fluoride, because discovery of the fluorine was very difficult, as it could not be separated from the from its compound. It was very difficult to separate fluorine from its compound, and Moise he discovered he was the inventor of the electric arc, and also he separated fluorine, elemental fluorine in the pure form, and he was the Nobel laureate in chemistry in 1906. So he was the great scientist, as you understand. And Gabriel Lippmann, another examiner, he was the developer of the color polarography, and he was the Nobel laureate in physics in 1908. And another, so three, the three examiners were there. Board contained three examiners: Henry Moisen, Gabriel Lippmann, and Professor Bonty. Professor Bonty was very renowned professor of physics in Paris that time, and they examined the thesis. And if you say what was their observation, just after examining the thesis and after asking question to the Marie Curie, so they wrote it. It was unanimously admitted that this thesis was the greatest single contribution of any doctorate thesis in the history of the science. That is the thesis of the Marie Curie, and it was written like this by these great scientists who were the examiners of the PhD thesis. So now I think all of you understood, that why still, the Marie Curie, you can say, she is a rather unique scientist, you can say. She was the first women scientist who got the Nobel Prize, and why the people are still remembering her, and her position, you can say, if you do the gradation of the scientist, she is, you can say, in the top level. There is no doubt of that. You can see what she did, the kind of work she did for her PhD thesis. And you also remember one thing, especially the girl students, you were here, that time she started her work when her daughter was only 3 months old. And she did all this work. Now I have seen many mothers, they are always telling we cannot do so much of work because we have our child at home. We cannot do all these things. But Marie Curie did all this work and all this laborious work, you can say, when her daughter was only, she started when her daughter was only 3 months old. So that's all I wanted to say about the Marie Curie. So if you have question, you can ask. So, Amrit, you can please ask the students if they have any questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, respected sir, for your mesmerizing presentation. Today was an extremely hectic day for you, sir. We are grateful to you for making time for today's event, despite your demanding and busy schedule. The forum is now open to questions. Participants who wish to present their questions to the speaker may do so by typing them in the chat box section. Please. Yes. If you want, you can unmute and ask our respected sir. I think someone has raised her hand. Okay, probably by mistake. Okay. Thank you, sir, for enriching us.
Okay. I think I have a question, Professor Bose.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Please.
I heard that the radium is a decomposing water.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is the reaction?
Oh, because it is simple as like water. Sorry, as sodium. If you see the pH, just come here. You can see from this analogy. You can see. You can see the pH table. What will happen? If you put sodium, what will happen in water?
Okay, water.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
And if you come here, that if you see the activity of the reactivity of magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, if you go down, what will happen? The ionization energy will decrease and the reactivity will increase.
Okay.
So radium, in fact, the radium will behave like the alkali metal. So if you put in water, it will release hydrogen, because now it is very, very, very reactive compared to the other metals. You know, as you go down to the groove, the ionization energy decreases and the reactivity increases. So it is now more reactive than the other alkaline earth metals, and it reacts with water to form hydrogen, like the alkali metals. Its reaction is like alkali metals.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, sir, for enriching us in such a wonderful way. It seems whatever time you have been given is not enough because your presentation was so enthralling. We would want to keep listening to you. Thank you very much, sir, for inspiring our generation. Please accept our regards.
Okay. Thank you, Amrit.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Professor D.V. Prabhu, sir, General Secretary, ACT, Professor Brijesh Pare, sir, President, ACT, and Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, sir, for their indefatigable spirit of inspiration and sustenance. I would like to thank Professor Shoikot Bandhopadhyay for his technical support. Last but not the least, my wishes of sincerest gratitude go out to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, and Professor Kaliprashanna Dhara, sir, for being kind enough to grace this occasion with their magnanimous presence and sharing us with their vast repertoire of knowledge. I would like to invite my dear friend, Professor Vijendra Singh, who is the National Convener of IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast 2023. Professor Singh is from Modi University, Rajasthan, to deliver the official vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amrit Mitra. Am I audible? Hello? Hello, Dr.
Yes.
Amrit Mitra.
Yes,
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. Dr. Vijendra Singh, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Liberal Arts and Sciences, Modi University of Science and Technology. It's a leading women university in Rajasthan and convener of GWB 2023. I am very grateful and it's my pleasure that my name is proposed for vote of thanks on this beautiful occasion. I would like to thank Rani Rashomani Green University, West Bengal and Government General Degree College, Singur for this wonderful program. Also, I hearty thankful to all to Association of Chemistry Teachers, mailing address Homi Baba Science and Education Mumbai nominated me as National Coordinator of GWB 2023 from India. I am also thankful to all the participants who have joined us and graces from their presence. I am also thankful to Professor Ashutosh Ghosh sir for enlightening us from his knowledge today. I am also thankful to Professor Kaliprashanna Dhara sir for their valuable knowledge served today. Okay, I would like to thankful all the professors like Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty sir, Principal, Government General Degree College, Singur, Professor Amrit Mitra, Professor Dr. D.V. Prabhu, General Secretary, ACT, Professor Brijesh Pare sir, President of ACT, and all the other faculty members associated with this program. Last but not least, I am thankful to all the participants who has listened sincerely today. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our respected IQAC coordinator, Government General Degree College, Singur, Professor Chaitali Chaudhuri, Madam, to conclude this online event. Over to you, Madam.
Could you hear, Amrit?
Yes, Madam. Loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this very special occasion. On behalf of IQAC Government General Degree College, Singur, I want to thank everybody present here. I'm really grateful to our distinguished guests. My heartfelt gratitude to Professor D.V. Prabhu, General Secretary, Association of Chemistry Teachers, Mumbai, Professor Brijesh Pare, President, Association of Chemistry Teachers, Mumbai, and Professor Vijendra Singh, National Convener, IUPAC Global Women Breakfast 2023, for their gracious presence. A very special thanks to our speakers, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Rani Rashmani Green University, and Professor Kali Prasanna Dhara, retired Professor, Department of Chemistry, University of Calcutta, for your beautiful deliberation. Thank you for enriching us in this way. I want to thank Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, Principal, Government General Degree College, Singur, for his constant support in almost every such endeavor. And one last time, I'd like to express my appreciation to Dr. Amrit Krishna Mitra, who worked on this event relentlessly. Thank you, students, and we will look forward to more such events. Thank you once again.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
We shall meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amrit Mitra. Thank you.
Amrit.
Thank you, sir.